how frequently would you recommend posting in an ideal world?
Start to look at the data of what's working and what's not working.
Best practices should I keep in mind when I'm picking out my hashtags? Hey, what's up, and welcome to today's episode of Social Media Moneymakers, a part of the Stan family of podcasts. We have spent the majority of our first 11 episodes of Social Media Moneymakers focused primarily on Instagram growth and using Instagram to make money online. Yes, we've talked about email marketing and we've dabbled in a few other platforms, but today we're doing a deep dive into TikTok. Yes, the infamous platform that blew up in 2020. We are going to be focusing entirely today on everything that you need to know to have success on TikTok. We're going to be talking about hashtags. We're going to be talking about video length. We're going to be talking about whether or not you should do talking head direct-to-camera videos or if you should use trending TikToks only. We're going to answer the question, how frequently should you post on TikTok? What goes in your TikTok bio? Do you need a niche on TikTok? And how can you use Stan in your TikTok bio in order to convert more followers into customers? I personally and admittedly selfishly am excited for today's episode because a few months ago, I decided to restart my TikTok from what was over 300,000 followers to now I have about 3,000 followers. So I literally have 1% of what I used to have. And so I'm excited for today's conversation because I want to get some TikTok coaching myself. I want to figure out what the best strategies and what the best practices are for success. And before you click away because you're not into TikTok, I want you to consider exploring posting on TikTok, if nothing else, for the reason that A, you are already creating short form video for Instagram, and B, Instagram can be taken away at a moment's notice. Instagram has been very glitchy over the last month. There have been a lot of frustrating times where Instagram has been crashing. You've been unable to post comments or stories or reels. And so I don't think it's in your best interest to only exist on one platform. I do not believe that you need to be on every single social media platform, but I also think it's not in your best interest to put all of your eggs in one basket. So if you already have a dozen eggs, you might as well take one or two of them and put them over in a TikTok basket. And today we're going to talk about how you can make that possible without spending a ton of extra time with a brand new social media app. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you to my guest, Wyld, which, yes, that is her real name. Talk about a flippin' awesome name. She is an absolute expert in TikTok, and she is here today to help you figure out everything you need to know to grow, have success, and make money using TikTok. Hello, Wave. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast.
Hi, Brock. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk all things tickety talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited as well. It's such a huge topic. Obviously, it is one of the very few platforms that has established itself over the last decade. I can think of so many that have been here for a month and then they're gone forever. But TikTok has just grown and grown and grown. Personally, I have a lot of experience in the early days of TikTok. Blew up really fast in 2019 and then stopped using it. And we can get into the specifics of what I did wrong. But I'm excited to pick your brain today because there's so many TikTok questions that I know my audience has, that I know I personally have myself. And the first question that I want to start with is in regards to the topic of niche. Because on Instagram, I teach that having a niche or a clearly defined, what is your thing you're talking about? What's your ideal audience? That's essential for growing on Instagram, in my opinion. When I blew up on TikTok, I guess I can tell the story. It was for dancing videos. It was 2019. I wasn't taking TikTok seriously. I was just posting dancing trends. Blew up 300,000 something followers. But then 2 years went by and I was no longer a college athlete who could make silly dancing videos in the locker room. I was a business owner teaching people how to grow on social media. And so that audience, it didn't connect for them, if that makes sense. They weren't really into what I had to share. And so I'm curious your thoughts around niche. Is it necessary on TikTok? Is it maybe more lenient on TikTok? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with your Instagram strategy. I 100% teach my students that you have to have a niche on TikTok because TikTok likes to categorize you, right? When you join the app, it's trying to figure out who you are so that it can show your content to the right people. So if you're making lots of different random types of videos, it doesn't know who you are. And we see evidence of this in a lot of the creator programs that they do. They have creator programs for people like in a sports niche, the book niche, fitness niche. So there's separate programs for that. Also, in the new creator search insights tool, you can categorize by niche and it will show you content recommendations and topics by niche. So if you're getting a lot of random ideas, then it's kind of a sign there that TikTok doesn't know who you are or what your niche is.
Gotcha. So is that something then that like in our TikTok settings we should go to, and it's like something that we have to select?
Yeah, this is a new feature that was just released in mid-March. Not everyone has it. Hopefully by the time this airs, it's worldwide. But the way you access it is in the search tool, you go to Creator Search Insights. And then a little button pops up. You just tap on the view button, and it will show you topics. And so the content ideas and the topics are based on what people are searching for in the app. So this is like a gold mine of rich data telling you what you should be creating. It also gives you data on what your followers are searching for. You can choose content gap, and it will show you things like topics that are searched but they don't have enough content for. So you should obviously do those ideas. It is a really, really cool feature.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm going to check that out as soon as we're done here today. I'm curious though, like I'm scrolling through my For You page on TikTok. Let's say my niche is snowboarding, but as I'm scrolling through my For You page, I'm not seeing any snowboarding videos. I'm seeing like cat and dog videos. Does that have any correlation, or does it not really matter what you consume?
Yeah, so of course, you're going to see what's on your For You page. You're going to see what you interact with. So, in the beginning, when you first start an account on TikTok, I do recommend that you interact with videos that are within your niche to kind of tell the algorithm what you like and who you are. But I've found over time it doesn't really matter too much. I've been on the app almost 4 years now. And I see a variety of content on my For You page, but I also kind of try to keep it that way because I try to keep a wide variety because I don't want to get stuck in only seeing one type of content. But that's what I recommend for the For You page.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. What I've personally done is because I started a new account when I decided that my 300,000 followers had no care about growing a following. They only wanted me to post more videos shaking my hips. So I started a new account. And the way I've been doing it is that new account, I only consume content on that account that's relevant to my niche and that, applies to the things I'm talking about. Whereas I'm using the old account that I used to post on to still just, be an average everyday consumer and consume the things that entertain me. So that's kind of how I've been approaching it. Is there anything wrong with that, or is that fine?
That's absolutely spot on. A lot of people have multiple accounts. I do the same. I have probably, I think, three or four. I try not to have too many, but some of them I consider like blank accounts where I try not to engage with anything, leave no digital footprint so that I can see a variety of content and kind of see what TikTok is like pushing out on certain accounts. So definitely, I recommend this with a lot of my students because one of the problems is they are creating content and then I go and I look who they're following and they're on TikTok for entertainment. Like they're following celebrities and stuff. And I'm like, no. You need to train the algorithm a little bit more. It's clear like it doesn't know who you are. So you're definitely on the right track.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Good. I'm glad to hear that. So when you're first getting started on TikTok, I would assume that the basics are we got to set up the username, an attention grabbing profile picture, and then the bio. The bio is something that I find interesting on TikTok because it's longer on Instagram. Like on Instagram, you can have like 4 lines, you can fit a lot of text. I don't know what the character limit is on TikTok, but what do you advise someone puts in their TikTok bio in order to convert more followers?
Yeah, your TikTok bio is only 80 characters. They are not very generous there. It is short. So I recommend, that if you can put a little bit about who you are, what you do, and some sort of call to action, and kind of make it a little bit catchy, have, maybe you want to use ChatGPT or something to think of like a witty way to say something about who you are and what you do that kind of catches attention. You can use emojis as well, but they take up 2 characters. Flags take up 4 characters. So you have to be really strategic and keep it short and simple. But I find, though, what I recommend for a lot of students is, if you can get people to click on your link in bio tool, that's where you kind of can expand and say a little bit more at the top if you have some space to write in a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah, like if you're using like a stand store and you link that in your bio, you can have some more info there than you can in the 80 characters in your bio. I've definitely felt very constrained by the TikTok bio. I'm curious, speaking of the link in bio, first and foremost, is it generally something that you advise to have the link to Instagram or the link to YouTube that you can kind of add on TikTok, or is that something that you should only really consider if you really want people to follow you on Instagram, let's say?
Yeah. So, for one thing on TikTok, you have to keep in mind is that features are constantly changing and they change for some people and they don't change for others. So, on my account and a lot of students I've talked to, the actual Instagram link and YouTube links have disappeared. What's funny though is when I look at my account, I see it. But if I look at my account from another account, it's not there. So for most people, I would say now it is gone, which is unfortunate because it doesn't have that. It's the same thing as Instagram. TikTok doesn't want users to leave the app. So I definitely recommend having it linked in your link in bio tool.
Gotcha. Okay, that totally makes sense. Thank you for letting me know. I had no idea that that was gone. When I look at people's TikTok bios, I can still see it, and I find it so useful because I very often will like find an audio on TikTok that I want to use on Instagram, so I'll switch over, or I'll just find someone on TikTok and I want to, also follow them on Instagram. So that's been a very useful button for me. Interesting to know, very important for me to know that it's gone for a lot of people. So thank you for letting me know about that. I have a lot of questions now about like the specifics. So many specifics. I know that I get a million questions a day with all of these things related to Instagram. So it was very easy for me to come up with what I was going to ask you for TikTok. So let's start with frequency. How frequently would you recommend posting in an ideal world?
Okay. Well, when someone asks me that question, the first thing I ask them back is, what are your goals? So if you are brand new to TikTok and you want to get to 1,000 followers, you probably want to you probably want to post more frequently. So one thing about TikTok is that there's 2 account types. There is the creator/personal account, and there's the business account. On the creator account, you need to have 1,000 followers before you get that clickable link in the bio. On the business account, you can get it underneath 1,000 followers if you submit, some tax information that you do through the app very easily through TikTok. So most people go onto the creator account because it gives you more access to music. And where was I going with that? Sorry, you're gonna have to edit that.
Oh,
What's
in
the
terms of
original question?
frequency.
Oh, yes.
Frequency, yeah.
So if you are under 1,000 followers, then I would recommend posting, maybe 2 to 3 times per day, depending on how manageable that is for you as well. So again, if this is a client or a student who is brand new to creating short form video, this can cause a lot of overwhelm and maybe even burnout. And if they don't have the right strategies to be able to create that much content, then that could also burn them out. So it depends on so many things and finding that, easy kind of that level. But say if you want to maintain just brand awareness, then maybe you just want to post once a day or 5 times a week. So it's really all dependent on your goals. I'm sorry, I know that's maybe not the clearest answer, but that's what I recommend.
Yeah, no, but that is helpful. if I was someone, let's say myself, for example, I have years worth of content from Instagram. I have no problem creating content. I can whip it up really fast. I have a team and I have systems in place. So I could realistically sustain 5, 6 posts a day. Is that too much? Like, should I limit myself to 3 a day? Or if I can sustain 6 a day, should I keep rolling with 6 a day?
Well, the more that you post, if you can sustain it, the more that you post, the more data you're going to get. So, what I would suggest then is posting that for maybe 2 weeks, sustain that for 2 weeks, and then start to look at the data of what's working and what's not working. I found for myself and a lot of students, again, sometimes there's certain it's weird though, there's just certain types of videos that will perform on your account and some won't. Some I've had students who do these what I call character skits, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. This is when one person plays multiple characters and then their account just takes off and other people do them and it just does not hit. So you kind of have to find what works for you so that you can kind of get into your groove, repeat more of that, and have more success.
Gotcha. That totally makes sense. I have a question that we probably should have talked about earlier. I didn't ask it because, in my mind, there's no point in asking it because I know the answer. But I realize that a lot of my listeners might have arrived at this episode with this question in mind and with this preconceived notion of TikTok. So I will ask it. Is TikTok just for young people? Is TikTok just for 20-year-olds and teenagers who dance around and, Gen Z?
Oh my gosh, that is so 2020. Yeah, I've heard that. People still asking that. No, I don't want to make your listeners feel bad. Times have changed. We saw during the pandemic that the app completely changed. More people joined, all age demographics. And I would say that I believe right now millennials are the largest age demographic on TikTok. Yes, there's a lot of young people too, but there's also old people. Well, I don't want to say old people, older adults,
Yeah.
older people too. Gen X and boomers, they're on the app as well. You see the famous funny grandmas on TikTok. Like all ages are there. It's not just dancing anymore, and it's not just kids.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Thank you for sharing that. I remember doing some preliminary research early on in TikTok, and I was specifically comparing the age demographics of TikTok users at year one to the age demographic of Instagram users at year one. So when Instagram was 1 year old, what demographics were using it. And when you compare it that way, and now that TikTok's been around for, like 3, 4, 5 years in popularity, the difference is staggering. The amount of people of older generations who are already using TikTok blows Instagram away when you compare it apples to apples in that way. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Totally, totally second that. Let's get back into the specifics of the videos and the posts you're making. So frequency wise, we're going to try to stay consistent with roughly every single day posting. If you can sustain it a little bit more, if you can't, maybe starting with 5 days a week. When we're creating these videos, is there like a percentage that we should stick to of trending versus original? Should it be all trends early on? Should it be like only a couple trends and mostly original? How do you differentiate between the two, and what do you advise?
All right, that's a good question. Not the easiest to answer, because you definitely want to have a content strategy and post a variety of content. TikTok loves the trending content, but it also loves original content. So the most important thing is to make content that is based around your offers, your products, your services. That is the most important thing. Everything should lead to that. A lot of business owners are going to make educational content because that's what positions you as the authority figure. It gives you credibility, builds trust, and that's original content, and that's fine. I like to think of the trends as, that top of the funnel content for visibility, or for awareness. So people see you and they kind of, get an idea of who you are. Maybe they follow, maybe they don't, but it's more for visibility. So you definitely don't want to do too many trends, but you also don't want to, ignore the trends because there's a lot of power and strategies with the trends on TikTok.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense to me. Speaking of funnels and driving towards your offer, your product, How is that best done on TikTok? Is it primarily relying on the link in bio, or is there some other tools or techniques that people are using that's effective?
Yeah, this is one of the main differences between Instagram and TikTok. On TikTok, you have to drive traffic to your link in bio. We do not have the DM culture. The DMs on TikTok are just not as robust. You can't send clickable links or voice notes or other videos or photos. It's very limited what you can do. So, getting people into your DMs and starting conversations there is not really a thing on TikTok. So, primarily focus on driving traffic to that link in bio.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I had kind of, I guess you could call it a mistake the other day. I posted one of my reels from Instagram and just had it automatically scheduled for TikTok. And at the end of the reel, the call to action was comment the word pod and I'll send you the link to my podcast, which inception moment was this podcast right here. And I got a few comments on the video with people saying the word pod, but then I was like, oh shoot, I can't really DM them the link. Like it's not really a thing on TikTok the way it is on Instagram. What I've heard some people do is they try to use TikTok as the top of their funnel and then funnel people to Instagram. Is it more effective to just have them go straight to the link in your bio and, join the email list, grab the freemium, whatever, right there in the link in bio? Or have you found it more effective long term to funnel them from TikTok to Instagram, and then once they're on Instagram, then convert them, from there?
I have seen some people kind of funnel over to Instagram, and that is fine if your goals are to actually build your Instagram account. However, or if you're under 1,000 followers and you don't have that link in bio. But however, you really have to go to that link in bio. People know on TikTok that that's where you have to go. So that's what I would focus on first.
Gotcha. Okay, that totally makes sense. And also just like marketing wise, that makes sense because you're having one less step in the funnel. It's not Instagram or TikTok, then Instagram, then a lead. It's TikTok, and then you're immediately a lead. That makes sense. Gotcha. One thing that you did mention is you said people on TikTok know that they have to go to the link in bio. And if I was to make a generalization about the average TikTok user compared to the average Instagram or Facebook user, the average TikTok user is a little bit more social media savvy, a little bit more tech savvy, I would say. And so that leads me to question the effectiveness of a call to action. Because on Instagram, I teach that pretty much every post should have a call to action, either in the post, ending your reel, or in the caption somewhere. Is a call to action something that you advise on TikTok? Is it necessary? Is it, a little bit more lenient and audience dependent? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, you have to experiment and see what works for your account. Some people do call to actions and they're really effective. Other people, it doesn't work so much. And I have a lot of students too that don't like doing call to actions. They feel uncomfortable. And in those situations, I say things like, well, then put it on text on screen so that you don't have to say it, or put it in the caption, or put it in the comments. It's all up to you how you want to do it. But it's really important to experiment and see what works for your account, because I have again found this, like I said before, that different things work for different people. I know for my account that, and I believe that when someone finds something valuable, they will save it, or they will do what you want them to do without having to tell them. But then again, sometimes I do experiment and I say, just in text, like save this post just as a reminder. So, this is all where you should check your TikTok analytics and kind of see what's going on with your videos and then adjust with your call to actions.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Now I have a two-part question that kind of goes back to what goes into a TikTok video or best practices. And admittedly, these questions are kind of fueled by the TikTok experts who are like, you have to do this, you have to do this kind of video now. It's the only thing. And so the first one is horizontal videos, which is something that's relatively new to TikTok, where you can press the little button and it rotates your screen and it goes full screen. And I've even recently seen in my own TikTok settings, they're kind of like incentivizing or encouraging people to post horizontal videos. So is that something that we should take seriously and that we should, experiment with, or is that something that's kind of just, TikTok trying to compete with YouTube, but don't worry about
Love that you asked this question because I'm so over it. I'm so over
it?
the horizontal videos. Yeah, when I got that notification, it went out in app. I was like, oh my gosh, now we have to make horizontal videos. It doesn't make sense. They were telling us years ago to make like purely vertical videos. And I made a few and I was like, this just does not work and it does not make sense. Maybe if you want to repurpose some YouTube content and cut it up, you can try, but filming, like doing it in app, they haven't built the UI in the app. So if you want to film horizontal, there's all these little tricks you got to do to make the green screen effects work or to rotate your comment, all this kind of stuff. It is not easy. It's a lot of hassle. And I think, a lot of the TikTok gurus jumped on it immediately. And I, looked into it a little bit and I was like, there's the reasons why they're doing this. Yes, they want to compete with YouTube. They're also pushing the creator rewards program, the longer videos where they have to be a minute long. So I really don't think it's going to make or break your content. I teach a content first approach. And that just means that your video is going to perform well, depending on the message that you're communicating. So if people resonate with that message and they got something from it, they felt an emotion, like your video is going to perform well no matter what.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That also very much validates and relates to my own personal experience. I remember when I got that, a little alert that horizontal videos or, whatever encouraged. I created one and I did it wrong. So it wasn't horizontal. It was like just, a tiny little postage stamp and no one could actually flip their phone and see it full screen. So I did it wrong. And then I did what you said a few times now, which is like taking one of my YouTube videos and repurposing that onto TikTok, but it's not like it's blown up. It's really just kind of performed on average for me, just kind of like any other video. So that totally makes sense. And I figured most of these things are kind of sensationalized,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's one minor change, and then every guru has to run with it and make a big announcement.
Yeah.
Speaking of video length, though, that's another thing that people always talk about. Like, should it be longer than a minute? What do you think there? Is short form the key? I know experimenting obviously matters, but if someone, let's say, can make a very engaging 2-minute video, is that going to be more effective for them than making a very engaging 7-second video?
I think there's a place for short form and videos over 1 minute long. However, I think that there's also different niches and types of creators who have more success with videos 1 minute plus. And those are videos that tell stories. So if you've ever seen the true crime niche on TikTok, true crime videos, they're like 3 minutes long. They're telling a whole story. It's engaging. So it's easy for them to get lots of watch time and make longer videos. Same for like any video that where you're showing a process like cooking or, even doing some sort of craft where you're showing the whole process. Those, are like a story. People will follow along. So they work well for some niches and some creators. Other creators, they don't work at all. Like they really, really struggle to get any watch time. And I do believe making those 1 minute plus videos takes some skill. There are strategies for that. There is skill and practice in getting people to continue watching because watch time is such a huge factor in video performance. So I always say, because people always come to me like, I should be, so and so said I should be making longer videos. And I'm like, okay, but are you having success getting people to watch your 30-second video? Let's start there. And so many times I have worked with students who were making, maybe 45 seconds to 1 minute videos. And we went into their analytics, we looked at their average watch time, we averaged it all out, and we determined, okay, so you are getting about 20 seconds of watch time on your 1 minute video. That's actually pretty good. So if you just made that video 40 seconds or 30 seconds and you made all your videos that long, your views are going to double. And so many times this has worked for them. So it's not always about making the longer videos. Just look at your analytics and determine like how long are people watching them. And then once you have the skills or you've learned how to, really get people to watch longer, then you can start experimenting with 1 minute plus videos.
Gotcha. Okay. Speaking of engagement and watch time, what is the best form of engagement? Is it purely watch time? Is it shares? Is it likes? What would you say?
So it's definitely watch time. TikTok has publicly said that watch time is the most important. As for the other engagement factors, we have likes, comments, shares, and saves. Nobody knows. We don't know how important they are. Some people will say, oh, saves are really important. I used to think likes were really important because of the way videos were ranked under hashtags, but then they started switching it up. So it's really hard to say. And now I'm like, just get lots of engagement, aim for all kinds of engagement.
Gotcha. Okay. And hashtags. That's like one of the biggest topics on
Mm.
Instagram. How do hashtags work on TikTok, and what best practices should I keep in mind when I'm picking out my hashtags?
Yeah, hashtags work really differently on TikTok, and a lot of people get hung up on hashtags. So they really do two things. They help the algorithm, it tells the algorithm like what your content is about or who it should go to. Although that's a little less important now in 2024 compared to like 2020 because the algorithm is super smart and it really knows everything in your video. And then it categorizes your content under that hashtag, which is just like Instagram. So I think my opinion is that hashtags have become a lot less important over the years. I primarily only use them for TikTok SEO. And that is very important. Ranking your videos to rank in search because we've seen that user behavior that people are searching so much for content. And I see this because a lot of my videos from, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, get engagement. Every day I see them like, oh my God, people are looking at that video. It's kind of cringy. It's still up. And people are engaging with it. They're liking it. They're converting to followers. So people are searching for content. So that is where you want to focus the hashtags. So keywords that are related to what your content is about.
Gotcha. Okay. And is there an ideal sweet spot, like 3, 5? I
Mhm.
don't know what the max is on Instagram. You can use 30. Is there like a limit I should stick to?
So, from myself being in TikTok creator programs, they always recommended 3 to 5, and that is what I teach 3 to 5. It doesn't need a lot of hashtags. It can appear spammy, and then it can also kind of confuse the algorithm as well. Like, who do you want it to go to, right? If you're telling it like so many different things, it really doesn't need that many hashtags. The algorithm is super, super smart.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, I'm now very curious about all of the miscellaneous features on TikTok because there's stories now, there's TikTok Live, which has been around for quite a minute. And there's always all these like little tiny random features that they come out with. TikTok Shop. Um, how important is it to use these other features? And is there one that you should really be focusing on or experimenting with more heavily because it yields better results?
Yeah, so there is oh god, now I just lost my train of thought again. I wanted to talk about okay, here we go. One of the biggest mistakes I see creators make or business owners make is that they come to TikTok and they only make videos. Right? But you got to think about it like Instagram. Instagram has all these features too, the stories and the live streaming. TikTok has that too. They have the three things. They have posting videos that appear on your grid. They have TikTok stories, which are similar to Instagram stories, and live streaming. So you really want to use all of those three things. I think live streaming is really, really important for business owners because it is so powerful for building community, for lead gen, for getting people, to your freemiums, for funneling people. It is so, so powerful for that. My key tip for that is you have to be consistent. It's got to be like, a regular schedule, and you got to hype it up to get people there, if you're doing that once a week. But live streaming is probably one of the most important additional features.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I've seen a lot of people who will like post maybe an announcement that they're going live, or they're like, "Hey, I'm going to be live streaming today at this time doing this thing." And then you see that little like red pulsing circle around their profile picture that they're live. And so just as the casual consumer, it appears to me that when you make or when you post a video, and then you go live, the video right before going live can sometimes get more views. Is that typically true, or is that just confirmation bias on my end?
I would say that was a big thing in 22, 23. You would see that, you would notice that. I would say it's a little bit less now, but it can still be helpful. I recommend always, using TikTok stories to post as well. That's primarily going to be seen by your followers. Your followers will also get a notification that you're live. So there's all kinds of strategies to get more people into your live streams. But yeah, so there's multiple ways that you can do it.
Got it. Okay, very helpful. The TikTok shop. I have very little clue about the TikTok shop. So I'm curious, first and foremost, are you able to sell your own physical products on the TikTok shop?
TikTok Shop is for physical products only. You cannot sell digital products. So think of it as like, well, Amazon, I guess, does sell some digital products like Kindle and all that kind of stuff, but it is physical products only.
Gotcha. And it can be your own, right? It doesn't just have to be like some other company's physical products.
You can sell your own, or you can find creators to help promote it.
Gotcha. Okay. Very, very cool. I would love for you to share some more just like tips, general recommendations around the short form video that we are creating on TikTok. Is it similar to Instagram? Do you have any sort of like guides or recommendations that you can share with us in terms of the actual videos themselves?
Yeah, so I would think about how, and this is really how I generate content ideas. When you have an idea, the first thing I do is, I get the idea for a video, and then I think to myself, how do I want to communicate this? Because over the past few years, we have seen a bunch of different video formats come up that are very, very common. So, one of the easiest ones is talking head videos. Those are very popular on TikTok. You're just talking to the camera. Sometimes people are sitting in a car or lying in bed, or it could be like me here in front of my computer, just talking to the camera and delivering information. So, there's just think that there is a lot of different ways that you can do this. So this is what I have in my guide, 9 short form video formats that you can make in 10 minutes or less. So that's going to give you an idea of really popular and common, easy, fast ways to make videos.
Love it. Awesome. I will definitely link that up in the show notes below this episode so anyone can download it. Where is the best place that we can get connected with you? What's your TikTok handle so we can follow you there?
Absolutely. It's my name at Wyld. That's the same across all of my social media platforms, and my website, wavewild.com.
Awesome. Awesome. We will definitely link that up. For anyone who isn't already following me on TikTok, I'm Brock 11 Johnson over on TikTok, trying to get back to that 300K that I was at in 2019, back in the good old days. But Wave, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Any final words of advice? Because I know a lot of our listeners are probably feeling like, Instagram's already, challenging for me. Why should I explore TikTok? Is it just going to be another headache, another source of frustration? It's scary. What would you tell that person?
Well, anything is possible on TikTok. We see that time and time again. Risa Tessa is the most recent example of that. The woman who was telling her marriage story in a 50-part series and blew up from like 3,000 to 3 million followers. Anything is possible on TikTok. That is the appeal of the app, that anyone can go viral, anyone can build an audience, a business. So there's so much possibility there. Just, don't overthink it too much. One thing you can do if you're not familiar with the TikTok app and TikTok culture is just go to the search tool, type in some keywords that you use in your business, and go consume content. Get an idea for how people are creating, what they're doing to get engagement, how they're formatting their videos, all that stuff. Study that content, and that's going to get your creative juices flowing and, giving you that idea in your head, like, okay, yes, I could do this. I could see myself doing this. Or maybe you'll say like, oh gosh, no, this isn't going to work. I'm just going to stay on Instagram. And that's okay too, but if you're making short form video already, then, you maybe want to also consider repurposing to TikTok.
I absolutely agree. Wave, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. Again, make sure to download Wave's free guide linked up in the show notes below. Make sure to follow myself and Wave over on TikTok, especially if you're new to the platform. We'll make sure to help you out. And thank you so much for listening today.